Well, it's been about 2 weeks since Season of Opulence has come out, which I think has been enough time to give some feedback on the launch of the season. So far, I think this is the best season we've had with the annual pass plan, although looking back on things, that didn't seem like a very difficult feat with Black Armory's rough start and Season of the Drifters' overly focused Gambit plan. The main focus for this season is the Menagerie, the first time we've had a match-made 6-player activity. The Menagerie consists of several challenges which require players to complete a simple mechanic: shoot crystals, light lamps, collect charges, stand on plates, things you might typically find in a raid environment, but toned down to be more forgiving for the match-made nature of the activity. I really enjoy seeing this kind of stuff, even if it doesn't necessarily challenge me. It gives players who aren't able to raid or who are only used to blasting through strikes a little taste of working as a team to complete an objective. It also gives me hope that Bungie will start making more activities with mechanics in them in general. The fact that there is technically no failure in the Menagerie as well is great for solo queue players and random groups, along with being good for the day one experience. The better you are, the faster you go, but not succeeding at an event doesn't change your loot situation at all, it just takes a little bit longer to get there. I imagine the first day or week was a little rough, but now that it's been out for a while, runs have been going a lot smoother, and I've seen a lot of positive feedback with regards to the matchmaking situation and getting through runs. You didn't have a situation like in Black Armory, where day one resulted in tons of failed attempts, nor do you have a situation where you need to unlock the chalice on every single character individually, even if the quest to unlock it in the first place wasn't that bad at all. In terms of longevity, I suspect that the Menagerie will have a bit more of it compared to something like Reckoning. Reckoning really only changed via the boss fights at the end, and there were only 2 of them, and as I've said previously, after a few runs of Tier 3 Reckoning, I was pretty much over it, especially considering trying to use Reckoning for weapon farming was incredibly difficult and inefficient. Menagerie, on the other hand, is a lot more engaging with having those objectives you need to complete. Playing well is incentivized to make a run go faster, there's a bunch of triumphs in place, it's not as strenuous of an activity, there are many events within the Menagerie. It's pretty much better in every way. Forges also meet some of these criteria, but I think the Menagerie is a way better activity than Forges were. That's not to say that I will never get tired of running Menagerie, because after about an hour and a half or so, yeah, I'm kind of done for a little while. But I'm much more willing to boot up for a Menagerie run than a Reckoning run. The Chalice of Opulence is how we forge items this season, and it's the most control we've ever had with regards to forging weapons. First of all, the rune inventory is built into the Chalice itself, unlike synths from Gambit Prime and Reckoning, which is a very welcome change. You drop in some runes to get exactly what you want, you go do Menagerie, and then you get the thing. Well, maybe you don't get exactly what you want, but you get the stats you want at the very least, and there's tons of spreadsheets and charts everywhere outlining exactly what you'll get with every rune combination. It's a nice mix of being able to get what you want, but maybe not always getting exactly what you want every single time. It's a good trade-off of RNG and player selection. That's the core loop of this season. I really don't have much else to say on the topic. In fact, I went back to see what I said for the start of the previous 2 seasons, and the big problems were not being able to play the new stuff the moment it dropped, and communicating how seasons are different from the old expansion model. And those are only some of the issues. Bungie has solved a lot of those problems. You can get to 690 in an hour if you own Forsaken with Season of Opulence. Menagerie is the best new activity we've gotten thus far. In those previous videos, I also went over sandbox changes and whatnot, but we've covered the majority of those in previous videos. It really makes me feel like I'm missing something here, but I don't think I am. Season of Opulence is just pretty good out of the box, given the expectations of what a season is going to look like in terms of content. I'll have another video for the raid and discussion, but I thought the day one experience of the raid was excellent and very tightly tuned. It wasn't Last Wish, where literally only 2 teams finished in a single day, but it wasn't Scourge of the Past either, where like a million teams finished in a single day. I thought the balance of number of day one completions was much better, although with regards to console versus PC, again, that's another topic for later. I will say that I don't know how pleased I am with how quickly bosses are getting one-cycled and one-phased after the launch of the raids. Galron was getting one-phased the moment the contest modifier was turned off, and maybe even before then, and has been one-phased in a two-man group. Whether that's a scaling issue or a weapon balance issue is another topic for another day as well. The quest for Truth, the exotic rocket launcher, also launched, and I would say it was about par for the course in terms of an exotic quest. You can get it done reasonably quick, not too difficult, doesn't require any sort of PvP at all. This quest didn't really impress me in any way, but it didn't really bother me either. I do have somewhat higher expectations for the Lumina exotic hand cannon questline coming out on July 2nd, though. I really haven't seen much negative feedback related to the core experience of this season. Honestly, the biggest piece of negative feedback I've seen is the Pursuits tab. Now, I will say that I don't know how big of a fan I am of the new Pursuits tab because I'm still adjusting my muscle memory of going to my inventory to check that stuff. But I'm also not a fan because it feels like information overload. When pursuits were in the inventory page, they were just icons, and I didn't really mind just hovering over said icons to see what I had to do for that bounty or objective. It felt more organized, even though the current Pursuits tab also organizes bounties and quests to some degree. Also, the filter doesn't hold. You have to redo it every time, a problem that's existed in other tabs for a long time now. I think just going back to those icons would probably be for the best for the time being. I don't mind having a Pursuits tab as long as Bungie hopefully eventually offers a keybind for it, but going back to just the icons or having the option for icons versus full text would also be nice. Also saw some negative feedback towards the shader icons. I think the new shader icons are an interesting idea and change, but it's going to take a lot of getting used to finding certain shaders because now the color and textures are on the icon. While it gives people a more realistic view of what will happen to your armor when you apply it, again, it might be a little too much for people. If the Pursuits tab UI and shader icons are the worst this season has to offer, I'd say we're looking pretty good. I think some people are also wondering about this season's secrets, like Season of the Forge had Niobe Labs, and last season had Outbreak. Things might pop up later in the season. I know people have been wondering like crazy what all those crystals in the Will of the Thousands strike are. I'm sure we'll find out about that sooner or later. Yeah, I mean, overall, things are looking pretty good for this season. That's really all I got. So I'll talk to you guys when the season ends, and we'll recap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.